Louise was looking through her basement one winter night when she discovered something she had never seen before. It was inside a box. What she found was a 16mm film and a projector. She set it up and played the film. To her surprise, it was a film from her childhood. She froze when she saw that she was playing with another little girl. But it wasn't just that she was frightened about seeing her playing with another little girl, but she remembered it was her sister Mary. She had forgotten she had a sister and realised why. Her sister was killed by a drunk driver and the pain was too much for her to bear, so she hid the memory deep in her subconscious until now. It was years ago since she was killed, but she hid the memory because it was her only way of coping with the trauma. Memories came flowing back to her before her sister was killed, and she started crying, wishing her sister was alive with her today. Suddenly the film stopped. It went black. Then something very strange and unexplainable happened. Her sister appeared on the screen. Her sister looked into her eyes from the projector screen and said, "I can come back to you. This town never helped me. This town never helped my killer get brought to justice. But there is a way to me come back. But all I need is your permission." Louise cried, "Yes, please, yes." Then her sister Mary spoke again. "There is more I can do, but once again, I need your permission. I can bring back to life all the people who died in this town." Louise thought she was dreaming, but said, "Yes, yes, please." The next morning, Louise woke up in her bed and realized it was all a dream. She went down to her kitchen and had her breakfast, then decided to take a walk. As she was passing the local graveyard, she heard commotion, and she looked to see what it was. She couldn't believe her eyes when she saw her sister, who didn't age a day, walk up to her and say, "Thanks for helping me come back to life, Louise." Louise was so happy to see her sister, but then she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the people who were causing a commotion faint. As they fainted, she froze in horror as she realized there were bodies come out of the graves in the graveyard. Mary said to Louise, "Don't worry, sister, you won't be affected." Louise asked, "What do you mean? I won't be affected by what?" As this was happening, Louise could see more and more living people drop dead as the dead people rose from their graves. It was then it hit Louise what was happening, but she waited to hear it come out of her little sister's mouth. "You won't die like the rest as the dead rise. You are the one who gave me permission to bring our town's dead population back to life. By our living, be taken over to the other side." I am here sitting next to my son, and he is just watching the TV as if I'm not even here in the room. My son is a very smart boy, but for some reason he has a really bad temper. His therapist has been making some kind of improvement, but things will have to move really slowly, she told me. Things started getting very bad after my wife died, after being attacked in my home. Not only bad for my son, but things got very bad for me. I tried to reach my son to get rid of his burning anger, but I just can't seem to reach him. I am a writer, and maybe sometimes I just get caught up in my own bubble when writing and don't have time to spend with my son, or else it's the shock of his mom dying. He didn't see her being attacked, thank God, but I had to give some sort of excuse that she got very ill and died. How was I to tell him the truth, that she was attacked in her own house and sustained a brutal blow to the head which killed her instantly? There is no way I would tell that to a 9-year-old boy. I first started noticing his mood swings after his mom was killed. Before that, he was just like any happy, energetic 9-year-old boy, but things got out of hand really fast as he got more and more aggressive and was getting into fights in school, etc. He spent time with his therapist every Friday after school, an hour to be exact, and his therapist gave him an interesting assignment. Considering I'm a writer, sometimes I wonder why I didn't just tell him myself, why I didn't give him the assignment. My son's name is Jake, by the way, but anyway, back to the assignment. Jake's therapist told him to write about his feelings and to express himself on paper. Jake has been writing a lot lately. I'd love to read what he is saying, but I don't want to invade his privacy. And plus, for some reason, I don't know where he keeps his writing. One day I was going for a walk, and suddenly I was ran over by a bus crossing the road. I am here sitting next to my son, and he is just watching the TV, as if I am not even here, as if I am not in the room. But of course, it's because I am a ghost. I couldn't understand how I could have walked away from being ran over by a bus. It took me a while to realise I was actually dead, but everything came together like pieces in a jigsaw when I finally found some of the writing my son was writing about his feelings. He was using my typewriter, and I looked at the page, and I read the words typed by my son. I am so angry with my dad sometimes. I just wish he was ran over by a truck. Me and my wife were arguing for weeks now. It could be over anything, about forgetting to take out the trash or the most stupid thing. I lost my temper and picked up my typewriter and hit her over the head. She instantly fell dead, and I froze in fear knowing I just killed my wife with my typewriter.
Good evening. Tonight I'm your host, Mr. Ramsey, and I'll be collaborating alongside the Assassin Rapper to present you this scary, uber animated horror story. If you enjoy this collaboration, then please let us know by dropping a like and letting us know down in the comments. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. This happened about 6 months ago, and I recently took an Uber for the first time since this incident, so I thought I'd share. I was leaving a work function at a bar around midnight in a large city, about an hour away from the suburban home I share with my partner. For reference, I'm a woman in my mid-20s with an average build. Not tall, not strong, definitely not threatening in any way, and I was a bit buzzed that night. I'm talking like 3 drinks, so not incapacitated in the slightest. Anyway, I'd ordinarily take a company car home, but I hadn't reserved one since I didn't know what time I'd be leaving, so I just decided to Uber. The company reimburses me for the bill anyway, so it was no difference to me. Once the Uber pulls up, I say goodbye to my colleagues and get in the back seat. I'm always very nice to my Uber drivers, so I introduce myself. This driver, let's call him Ed, since I don't actually know his real name, seemed totally normal. No red flags, and we make pleasant conversation for about 15 minutes until we are squarely out of the city on the way to the suburbs. From the pleasant conversation, I learned he lives in certain neighbourhood not far from my home. Note that his neighbourhood was relatively nearby. We'd be completely out of the way en route we are taking to my home. The conversation reaches its natural end, so I just stay a bit quiet and start looking at my phone, Reddit, whatever. The quiet is interrupted by his voice, suggesting I take a nap if I feel tired. It didn't even strike me as weird at first, so I just thanked him for the offer, but I wasn't that tired. He then said, "Oh, I always get sleepy when I'm drunk. Are you sure?" At this point, something in my body made me even more wide awake than before. I replied that I wasn't drunk and, like I had said, I just had a few drinks, so no need to nap. Haha. "I'll be home soon enough anyway." He dropped it after that, but I still thought it was weird he'd say that. About 5 minutes later, he says that the highway had some weird construction going on, and that the single lane traffic ahead would make my trip way longer than it needed to be. He asks if it's okay to take another route. I oblige, already on edge and just wanting to be at home. My partner calls at that moment, asking when I'll be home, and I make sure to make it very clear I was talking to my significant other. Something was weird about this guy, and I wanted him to know that someone is expecting me at a specific time and knows where I am. After I hung up the phone, the Uber driver stays quiet and we get off the highway, on a different exit than I'd ever used, but I guess that'd be expected on a different route home. I'm bullshitting on my phone because I don't want to talk to this guy anymore, not even looking up until he says, "My house is only 5 minutes from here, okay?" Pit in my stomach, I'm probably a good 25 minutes away from my house right now, a distance enlarged, I'd later learn artificially, by his shortcut. I say some nonsense about how I like the neighbourhood, and how my boyfriend and I were thinking of moving here instead, blah blah, basically anything I can think of to make it seem like I don't think this is weird and I'm not picking up on any signals. Surprisingly, he doesn't say anything in response, and now starts driving on a road in a direction I knew led to my house. Phew, crisis averted, right? Except, not exactly. 15 minutes to go and my surroundings are more familiar. Just as I'm starting to feel more at ease, he starts asking questions about my boyfriend. What does he do? How long have you guys been together? And other seemingly normal questions. Finally, with about 10 minutes to go, he asks if my boyfriend makes me happy. He does, very much, so I gush a bit and say yes, he makes me very happy. Then he asks if I make him happy. I thought that was weird, but humour is my defence mechanism, so I say, well, I should hope so. 8 minutes away. He turns onto a side street and pulls over onto the side of the road, looks back at me over his headrest, and asked if I'd make him happy too. I said, what? Mostly because I can't even believe what's happening. He asks me again, do you want me to make you happy tonight? I took a second to think through my options. I'm alone with this guy who's behind the wheel. The street is dark and I don't see any lights on at nearby houses. Close to 1 AM at this point on, and at a weekend, and I don't know what the hell this guy has in the car. I default to the response many women know to be the true barrier to men's advances. I don't think my boyfriend would like that very much. His weird grin falls away from his face and he says, he doesn't have to find out. Come on, make me happy. I know a few ways you can start. I tell him my boyfriend is expecting me home any minute, and besides I love him and don't want to hurt him. Can you please just take me home? I carry a small knife and a little canister of mace, but all I could think of was to appeal to this guy's sensitive side. Somehow it worked, and he didn't say another word after that, just turned back around and silently drove me home. Weirdly enough, I say thanks as I get out of the car. Old habits die hard, I guess. And that was that. I got into my house and start crying immediately, for some reason as soon as I hug my partner. He tells me I need to contact Uber immediately and tell them what happened so that the guy doesn't try to take advantage of anyone else. I agree and pull up the app to file the complaint. Except when I look at my last ride, the picture on my profile was 100% not the same guy who drove me home. The car was the same, but not the driver. The guy in the photo was brown and wore a turban, maybe early 40s. The guy who drove me home was white and seemed just a bit older than me. Uber never followed up with me and just refunded my money. I did tell the police what happened because my partner insisted, but they didn't take me seriously since nothing actually happened. I was worried for a while since the guy knew where I lived, but apparently it's long forgotten since I just took an Uber today. Moral of the story: always make sure the photo in your Uber driver's profile matches the person who's driving the car. Thank you all for listening. I want to thank the Assassin Rapper for his fantastic animation work, and I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any future collaborations.
I am a social influencer. I was going to visit some friends on a weekend. It was a holiday and my friends lived a couple of hours away. So I left in the afternoon and I would be there by nighttime. As I am driving for about an hour, it starts to storm very hard. I can barely see out of the window and the roads were very slippery and I was still about an hour and a half from my friends. So I just told myself to play it safe. And there was a hotel right there. So I decided to stay in the hotel until the storm would pass. I booked a room to stay there for what I thought would just be an hour or two, the most. But looking at the weather report, it looks like I would be there at least until tomorrow morning. I said. I texted my friends about the storm and that I probably wouldn't be there until tomorrow morning. They said it was fine and to sleep it off. As I'm in my hotel room, I notice there's nobody else here besides me. It feels empty, too empty, I told myself. Then, I hear a sudden knock on the door. My eyes widen, and I go to open it up, and right before I do, they say, "Room service." I look confused, well, because I never ordered any room service. So I politely reply and say, "I'm okay, please just come back again later." Then I hear a crazy laugh. Then there's silence. I slowly approach the door to take a look at the people and see a man holding a knife with a crazy grin look on his face. He then stares at the people as if he knows I'm looking through it, and then he smiles and then starts banging on the door as loud as possible. I back up and call the police. No answer. Then I call the lobby. No answer. Then the banging stops. I hear the man on the other side of the wall trying to get through. So I open the front door and run for it. Then the man is in front of me with a knife and I fall down. He gets on top of me and lifts his knife, and then everything becomes dark. I wake up in my car and call my friends to let them know that I was back on the road and I would be there as soon as possible. I then put my phone down and remember, I don't have any friends and that I'm homeless. Oof, it was just all a bad dream, I said, smiling. As I look to my left, I see the hotel that was in my dream and the man in the window smiling and waving his knife at me. Then the police arrive right in front of me. I wake up again due to an alarm. The alarm says, "Get up, everyone, get up." As I get up, there are chains around me. I am locked in a small white room. Then a security guard opens the door in front of me, and that door reads, "Mental Institution, our most dangerous criminal." As I'm walking out the door, I remember, that wasn't all a dream. That was the story of how I attempted to murder a famous social influencer and killed everyone else in that hotel, and how I ended up here. Just one more year left in here, I say to myself. Then I can make my second attempt. That is why I pleaded crazy to end up in here and not in prison for life. I'm coming for you, social influencer, to finish the job.
I help people become eligible to live off government benefits for life, and I am pretty good at that, if you don't mind me saying. All in all, I think I am the most helpful person you will ever meet. Take Barry, for instance, who was sick of working in the construction company, and he wanted to live off government benefits and welfare, because after 20 years of hard, backbreaking work, he couldn't take it anymore. I told him to meet me on some dead-end road. Barry waited for me on some empty, lonely road, which nobody uses, and as I drove up the road, Barry was standing on the road having a smoke. I then drove really fast, and I purposely hit Barry. He became paralysed, and from then on Barry was eligible to live off government benefits and welfare. I gave him exactly what he wanted. Me and my friends visited the woods, and we came across something very strange. Right in the middle of the woods, there was a TV with a VHS in the VHS machine, and we pressed play. There were weird things pop up on the screen, different scenes, and different places. But then we all got such a scare when some weird-looking creature with red eyes peered out behind a well. A week later, we were all hanging out and playing basketball when all of a sudden we fainted. When we came around, everything was dark and we saw the creature again. The thing is, this has been happening us since we all looked into the creature's eyes from the screen. We wished we had never ever played that videotape. We know now that if that creature stares at you through a screen, then a week later you will be visited by him. And the worst thing is, the visits become more and more frequent. I just faint, and there I am again, in his world. You're next. See you in a week. Please help me. I can't hear you, but I'm hoping this is streaming live. The laptop monitor here is turned off, but I managed to hopefully stream myself to let you know I am being held captive by a madman. I just saw red skulls, and after that, all I could remember was waking up here. I am in an abandoned factory outside of Maine. I don't know exactly where, but please, someone, If they know the area, help. Help me, please. Call the police. This man is going to kill me. He could be back any minute. Please, if someone is watching this, please. It's an abandoned warehouse outside Maine. Oh my God. He's coming back.
Hi, this is a story I have from when I was a boy, about 10. I remember my mom used to tell me all cool stories about a ballroom called the Shiny Ballroom. It sounded like a really cool place. She told me back then all the girls were at one side and all the boys were at the other side. And when the slow dances came on, the boys would walk or sometimes slide across the floor to ask the girl who they would like to dance with out to dance. The ballroom used to also have all the biggest show bands and singers of the time. This would have been around the 60s and 70s, in the height of the rock and roll and show band era. There was a crystal ball in the middle of the room. I'd love to have known what would it have been like to grow up in the rock and roll era. When I was 10, the ballroom was shut down for years and it was abandoned as long back as I can remember. It actually was not even open when I was born, I'd say. I remember seeing teenagers go around the back of the hall, so I realized that there must have been an entrance into the building. One day, me and my mom were passing it, coming back from shopping, and we decided to take a look at the back of the building. We saw a window smashed, and it was an entrance into the building. Me and Mom decided to climb up into the opening to see what the building was like now. We climbed through the space and noticed an eerie, lonesome atmosphere. I remember thinking of all the dances and people who met each other and happy times, and now it's just this dark and creepy abandoned building. We walked through an entrance where the steps were down to the dance floor. My mom was telling me where the people used to dance, and she showed me where the crystal ball used to hang from the ceiling. It was now just an old piece of cable hanging from the ceiling. I tried to imagine how this place once looked. It must have been such an incredible, lively dance hall back in its day. We walked through the dance floor, and there was a drawing of a couple dancing on the wall. My mom showed me where the boys used to sit and the girls. I realized how different things are today. We walked through the hall, and at the back of it there was a side room. I noticed something very creepy on the wall. Even though I was 10, I was a fan of heavy metal, so I knew what a pentagram was, or some people might call it the Devil's Star. I told Mom to look, and I shone the light in the wall. There was a pentagram written in red with 666 below it, and a satanic verse saying, "Death will rest here" at the end of it. Me and Mom found it very creepy, and I felt uneasy being in the room. I had a fear of anything to do with Satanism or the devil, and back then it was the satanic pandemic. Loads of stories were breaking on the news about different things linked to Satanism, and I was only a kid, so it freaked me out totally. I often think I would have loved to have taken a photo of that verse on the wall. You might wonder why, but it will make sense in the end of this story. It was a creepy experience, but years later was when it got a whole lot creepier. When news broke they were going to build a funeral home on the exact ground of the dance hall, exactly where the verse was written that said, "Death will rest here." The funeral home now has been built for years, and the coffins lie exactly in the same spot as the verse was written. That's why I would have loved to have taken a photo to see exactly the words, "Death will rest here." Of all the places they could have built a funeral home, I felt it so weird and creepy. They built one on the exact same place. There was a satanic verse written on a wall saying, "Death will rest here."
Martin and his friend Simon were in school one day talking about what they were going to do for the weekend. They both decided on going to a local abandoned asylum. Lots of teenagers loved to break in and throw parties there, and there was a few sightings of weird stuff, but nothing was taken seriously. Martin's sister conceived her baby in the asylum, and she was heartbroken when the baby died just a few minutes after being born. His sister hated the asylum ever since and put it down to the asylum being haunted, the reason her baby died. That night when Martin and Simon ventured into the asylum, they were pretty spooked out by the surroundings. The teenagers that threw parties would have been in groups of maybe 30 or even 40, so their level of fear would have decreased easily. As they say, strength is in numbers. Simon said to Martin, "What are you looking so freaked out about? We are more than likely to walk into some drunk dude than a ghost man. Don't look so freaked out." Both boys walked into a room that had an old pram just sitting in the middle of it, which looked like something out of a horror movie. Suddenly, both Martin and Simon jumped when they heard a noise. It was someone sobbing and saying something. They listened and could hear someone saying, "My baby, where is my baby?" They walked into the next room and saw a cage with what looked like a baby in it. They ran out of the asylum as fast as they could, and both didn't believe their eyes. What was a baby doing in a cage? But the worst thing was, it didn't look like any ordinary baby. It looked demonic. The eyes were dark and they didn't even want to dwell on the evil they felt. They felt cold. They felt a darkness come over the whole room when they saw it. That is why they run. That is why they ran. That is why they sprinted out of the asylum. They spoke about it on the way home, after running and running for what felt like miles, but in reality was only minutes. That night when Martin was in bed, he thought he heard a noise, so he put on the light, and to his shock, he saw a pram sitting in his room. He walked over to it, and suddenly there was a knife from the pram stabbed him. He fell down on the ground, and a cage fell down around him.
Close your eyes. Let your muscles rest. Unclench your jaw. Your eyelids are heavy, too heavy, as if anvils weigh them down. Your feet are like anchors digging into the floor. Your legs are made of lead. You melt into your chair. Now breathe. In. Out. Deep breaths. You feel yourself drifting. In. Out. Now sleep. This is a dream. In the dream, you're free to move. You're in a long, narrow hallway. The light is dim, but you can see enough. There are 2 doors ahead. You choose one, left or right. Make your choice and move to it. You lay your hand on the knob. It's cold. You turn it and walk inside. The door closes behind you. The room is dark. There are no light switches or bulbs. It's dark, and it is meant to be dark. You know it is not empty. You know you are not the only living thing in the room. You can almost hear it. You're afraid, but you have to walk through. The door behind you is no longer there. There is nothing behind you but the wall. The thing in the dark can see you. It watches. You start to walk across the dark room. Your shoe sticks to the floor the farther you move, as if you were walking on a floor coated in molasses. It gets harder to move. The floor is soft now. The thing in the room is watching you struggle. It knows you're afraid. It wants you to be. Your legs are stuck. You can't move. You're sinking. Reach out and see what you can grab. Yes. There. Almost there. Reach. Take it. It feels soft under your fingers. Soft like skin. Hard like bone. As you close your hand around it, fur brushes your palm. You let go, too scared to hold on, but you're still sinking. It's up to your waist. And as you search for something else to hold on to, you sink down to your stomach, your chest, your neck. As you struggle, your arms stuck in place, you look up and you think you can see it. Yes, it's there, crouched in the corner. You see only its outline. The thing that lived under your bed when you were small. It watches you as you sink. Your mouth goes under. Your nose. You can't breathe. The black fills your eyes. The darkness is all there is. The hallway stretches before you. Long and narrow. Dim. A door stands at the end. Only one door now. The door you didn't take. You refuse to enter. You know that from this room there is no exit. So you turn back to the hallway and run. But it stretches on and on. It's endless. There is no beginning, no end. You stop running. You're not tired. You don't sweat. It's as if you didn't run at all. Behind you, the door is now open. Flashes of artificial blue light pulse from the room beyond. There is no other way. You walk through the threshold and go inside. Your father sleeps on the recliner. Your mother is upstairs reading in her room. You turn your attention to the TV and notice it's one of your favorite shows, the one you watched after school every day when you were younger. But it's an episode you've never seen. You thought you had seen them all. But the characters are behaving strangely, not like their usual selves. They're awkward and stiff, as if they know you're watching them, as if they're performing for your sake. You rush to the TV and turn it off. Behind you, your father snores on the recliner. You turn and watch him. You study his face, his belly, the valleys of his eyes. It looks just like him, but it isn't him. You know with every bone in your body this is not your father, and the woman upstairs is not your mother. This house looks like your childhood home, but it is a copy. A pulse of light through the window, quick flashes. You look out and see construction workers fixing a pothole in the street. A police officer stands by. But they are not doing their jobs. They are only pretending. They know you're there. They turn their heads and watch you. You duck and close the blinds. The snoring thing on the recliner does not move. Somewhere else in the house, something is making noise. Upstairs. The mother. She's walking around, looking for something. She calls your name. Her feet are on the stairs, ready to come down. You run across the house to the kitchen. You look through the glass pane of the back door. It is too dark to see anything outside. The door won't open. You can't get out, but you wouldn't want to anyway because there are things in the brush and in the neighbors' houses. You can't see them, but you know they're there. And they're here, too, in the copy of your house. They are standing behind you with bare feet on the kitchen tile. They wear your parents' faces. They are waiting for you to turn around. You wake up. You are safe in your bed, the middle of the night. It was a dream. It is 9 minutes to 3. The sky is still dark. There are shadows in your room. You know there is nothing in them. If you turn on the lights, nothing will be there. But as long as the darkness is there, you wonder. You doubt yourself. Your feet lay open. They tingle with the expectation of something grabbing them and pulling you away. But there is nothing in the dark. And even as you tell yourself this, you look away from the black. You close your eyes and hope you fall asleep before you can think about it any longer. Some part of you knows the truth. When you look forward, they're at your back. When you are in the light, they are in the dark. When you drive on a lone road in the night and your rear-view mirror feels like eyes watching from the back seat, you know you are not alone. That cold thing in your stomach, that air of anticipation as your feet hang from the edge of the bed, it is them. It is us. Your legs were heavy, now they're light. Your eyelids, nothing weighs them down anymore. We are here. 3, 2, 1.
Wake up.
Peter walked into his local video shop one night in 1985. He noticed the man behind the counter looking at him strangely. He was looking through the horror section and got a fright when the man walked near him and said, "I know you like horrors. I have a horror you must see. It's behind the counter. Let me get it for you." Peter said, "Sure, yes of course. I'd be looking forward to see it." When Peter walked up to the counter with the man, he saw two teenagers giving them a strange look. He wondered why. When Peter got home and watched the video, he couldn't believe his eyes. It was CCTV footage of outside the video shop of a person being killed. It was dated a month ago. Peter has a condition where he just chills out in his house for days and doesn't meet anyone. He just goes out and rents a video every few days and that's it. The most horrific thing about the CCTV footage of the person that was killed was that the person was Peter. He now realised that he knew the guy who worked in the video shop had a reputation of contacting the other side. And now it hit him why the teenagers were looking at them. They weren't looking at them, they were looking at him, wondering why he was talking to himself. Could this be true, he wondered, if he was a ghost? Because if he was shot in the head outside the video shop a month ago, how could he be alive? Peter walked out of the house, waiting for the next person to pass to confirm was he alive or dead. And with that, the next person passed after Peter asked what day was it. But they just passed and didn't hear nor see him. Peter now knew he was the person killed in the video, and he was a ghost. Every CCTV has blind spots, and if you don't know what blind spots are, they are basically places where the CCTV cameras cannot reach visually. I work in security, and inside the building I work in, there are loads of CCTV cameras, but at the same time, there are loads of blind spots. I was working the night shift a couple of weeks ago, and as I was looking at the CCTV cameras, nothing much was happening. Then, as I got up to go to the bathroom, at the corner of the reception area, there was a ghostly figure just floating on its own. I had no idea what its intentions were, but it was so random. I never believed in such things, but this eerie figure was staring at me. I went back to the CCTV cameras to look at it again, but it was in the blind spot. Then a resident was walking past the reception area with his headphones on and without a care in the world to even notice anything. When this person got into the blind spot of the CCTV, he never appeared back into the lens of the CCTV cameras. I went out to see that he wasn't there anymore. He was pronounced missing a week later. Then, during a weekend night shift, I doubled up with another security guard. I told him what had happened, and he started laughing. He went to another place inside the building where it was a blind spot for the CCTV cameras. He started shouting and mocking the ghosts. Then he went silent, and the silence was evading. My friend wasn't at that spot anymore, apart from a silhouette of a ghostly aura. And it seems like these ghosts know all of the blind spots for the CCTV cameras. They can get away with things now. Footages and CCTV cameras have really been a pain in the backside for them. The managers just assumed that my coworker just walked off the job. There is no proof or anything sinister happening to him. I stay away from the blind spots now, because the ghosts do their best to stay in those places that the CCTV cameras cannot reach. If you are in a CCTV blind spot, then these ghostly creatures can do anything to you, and nobody will believe a thing because of no footage evidence.
I was home alone watching horror, and I felt tense as I hated being home alone. So the suspense of the movie added to my anxiety. I don't know why I'm such a crybaby. Maybe I should just not watch scary movies. I got a notification from my phone. It was a Snapchat notification. It was a message. It read, "Check my story." I wondered, who would it be from? As there was no photo on the profile, just black, I scrolled down my Snapchat contacts and viewed their story. I looked closer, squinting my eyes, as it was very dark. I could make out it was some sort of room. I jumped with fright when I realized it was my front door and the story was taken inside my hall. I looked up from the couch where I was sitting into the hall, but could not see anything. I realized the story wouldn't have been live, of course. Maybe it was my boyfriend, Jake, playing some stupid prank on me, but I still felt dread overcome me and was paralyzed with fear. Whoever this is could still be in my house. I got another notification and almost turned my phone off, but knew that wouldn't change anything if someone was actually in my house. I pressed the button and viewed the snap. This time it was a video. I could see the back of my head and my phone in my hand. Whoever was filming this snap was just behind me and is just behind me now. My heart jumped in my chest and I felt like screaming, but couldn't as I was frozen with fear. I suddenly felt a hand touch my shoulder and jumped and screamed. A man walked around with a mask, then took the mask off, and he stared right at me. Let me introduce myself. You can call me, Jake. You don't know me, as you were too busy stealing my phone the other day. I followed you home, and that's how I know where you live. I was going to call the police, but decided there would be something more creative I could do. I shouted, "Please, please, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal any phone." The man pulled out a phone. "Oh, but you see, you did. I have it all here on camera. Luckily, my good old observant friend caught the whole thing while pretending to be busy texting. He showed me the camera and I felt disgust watching my twin sister kissing my boyfriend. I looked up in fear, hoping he would believe me. That is not me. That is my twin. I looked up in fear, hoping he would believe me. That is not me. That is my twin sister cheating with my goddamn boyfriend. Jake laughed. Do you expect me to believe that? I flicked through my phone and showed him a pic of me and my twin sister Sarah. He looked at it and then back to me. Well, where is your twin sister then? I was shaking with fear. She's at work. She will be home at 12. It was 11:30 now. I said, that bitch was kissing my boyfriend. I'll lead you right to her if you like. Jake smiled again and said, sounds like a plan. But work, wherever that is, well, that's not a place where I can exactly get revenge. I got out my phone and Jake looked at it to see was it his. I knew it wasn't. I called her to come straight home. Let me use my home phone. I have no credit. He nodded. Go on then. Call her now. I picked up the phone and after a few rings she answered. Please come back home straight after work. I'm in trouble with my project. I need some help. The deadline is tomorrow. It's an emergency. I hung up before any reply. He said to me, it looks like your twin sister is a thief and someone that stole her own twin sister's boyfriend. Wow, that's bad. This bitch will have what's coming to her. I smiled. You can say that again? If I knew about her being with my boyfriend, I would have tracked you down myself to you teach her a lesson. At 12:10, my sister pulled up in the driveway in a car and knocked on the door. I opened it and Jake was standing at the side. My sister walked in and a cop came in behind her. Once I saw the cop, I screamed, please help, help, he's in my house. I admitted to the cop afterwards. It was me that stole Jake's phone, but had to pretend it was my twin sister. I held the mute button down when I made the call to my sister. I spoke certain words, so instead of her hearing, I'm in trouble with my project, I need some help, the deadline is tomorrow, it's an emergency. She heard, I'm in trouble, I need help, it's an emergency. I was happy that it worked, pressing mute with certain words, so that is all she heard. And I will never ever steal anything again.
I was in high school. I would always get made fun of because of the way I looked or how I sound. I have tried to defend myself, but that never seemed to work. I tried ignoring them, that didn't work. I tried calling them names back, but that didn't make me feel good. I didn't want to stoop down to their level. I was in school walking down the hallway and one of the bullies trips me. I fall right on my face. Then, everyone starts laughing at me. I get up and run to the bathroom to cry. I hate my life, I said. My life sucks. My life would be so much better if it wasn't for those bullies. The lights flicker, then they turn back on. As I clean myself up, someone else comes in the bathroom and all I hear is them saying my name. I don't believe in violence. Also, the fact that he is twice my size isn't a fair fight. I tell him to leave me alone and he laughs and tells me if I don't come out from the stall, then he will come in. I come out of the stall and tell him that I don't want to fight and that I don't want any problems. He doesn't care. He looks right at me and punches me. I fall to the ground and then he gets on top of me and starts hitting me some more. I'm gonna end you, he says. Then the lights start to flicker some more. Then behind him, I hear a voice. Get off of him or you will regret it. The bully also hears the voice. He looks behind him and there's nothing there. Then the bully is about to hit me again and then the voice says, I warned you. The bully gets up and looks behind him again. There's this figure, very pale skin with a hoodie and clothes covering most of his body. The bully says, I'm not scared of you. The lights turn off and 3 seconds later, they turn back on. There's nobody there. It's just me. The bully and the mysterious figure are gone. I was very confused and blacked out. I wake up at home and I thought it was all a dream. The next day, I go back to school. Then I notice that the bully is nowhere to be found. I asked some people, and they told me that they haven't seen the bully since yesterday and that what happened to me is true. That it wasn't a dream. I did get beat up by the bully. Well, I try not to worry about it and live my life. I made a lot more friends and I became a lot more happier. I became the popular kid, and now I had to beat up a kid to show that I was in charge of that school. All of my friends looked up to me like I was their boss. I've enjoyed it. It's now been a couple of more years later, and I still haven't heard of that kid. Maybe he moved or got expelled for hitting me. Whatever happened to him, it was for the best. As I'm about to leave school, I have to use the bathroom. I go in there and go to the stall. As I'm using the bathroom, I hear a voice. The same voice I've heard when I was getting beat up by the bully. The voice said, "I liked you. It's a shame that you are a bully." I didn't think too much about it. Then it hit me. "Oh no," I said. I try to run out of the bathroom, but then the lights flicker, then turn off for 3 seconds. Then turn back on, and there's nobody there.